Hello YouTube, glad you're back. It's Bradley Hallman. I hope this is not your first time on my channel, but if it is, glad you're here to join us. I did a series on breaking down lakes earlier this spring on seasonal patterns, movements of bass, and how you can break down lakes at home quicker and faster. That's what this episode is going to be about. I'm going to continue that, except now it's summertime. We're going to go into summertime, largemouth seasonal patterns, bass patterns, and going into July, which is where we are. It's July 11th today. I'm really excited about doing this. I'm going to teach you guys how to eliminate 90% of the lake before you ever get there, leave you with 10% of the water, which should be the most efficient. The things that I look for using Google Earth, using Navionics and the tools that we have at home, and just using seasonal patterns with the types of reservoirs that we're talking about to break them down and to allow us to do this. Earlier this spring, I did one on a river, how to find bass on a river during the spawn. I also did one on a couple of lakes here in Oklahoma that I'd never been to, and broke them down. Actually, the ones I did in Oklahoma, I actually broke them down on, like we're talking about, and then I went and filmed an episode of me fishing those lakes and to see how it turned out. And they were pretty close to spot on. So I'm not saying that I know everything or that I'm going to catch it all. Today is going to be about a Highland Reservoir in the summertime, and the seasonal summer patterns on a Highland Reservoir coming at you next. All right, guys, so this is a Highland Reservoir. This is Truman Lake in Missouri, and there's some things that I want to show you guys here on the Google Earth and with the Navionics. So we're going to go from here to here. I want to start with Google Earth just because Google is something that I use all the time. It's a tool that I really like. It does seem to be more beneficial in shallow water situations than it does deep, but it still works with both. So the things that I'm going to start with in summertime and with any lake is I want to look at a couple of different deals. One of the main things that I want to look at is the dam, because I'm looking to see if it's a locking dam. Locking dam being a dam system with a lock in it that they run barges through, which would make it more of a river run system. This is a true reservoir, not a river reservoir or river run reservoir. You can tell that by looking at this dam. There's no locking system to it. This side over here appears to be like an overflow type system over here. One thing they do have right here that I do notice right off the bat, these are generators. This is a generation house that they've built and put down here around the dam. So they do suck electricity through here. If you look over here, you see all the power lines and stuff that they're using to send that electricity out of there that they're selling to the public. But that's one of the things that I noticed right off the hand. Another thing that I noticed was this boat ramp right here. You can use Google Earth, and one of the things I'm looking for is what kind of boat trailers are these? Are these pleasure boaters or what? They primarily appear to be fishermen. Obviously the ramp is not full by any means, but they do appear to be bass boat trailers, pontoon boat trailers, and some smaller aluminum boat type trailers, fishing boats, which is a good sign that fishing is usually pretty good here. Before we get there, I'll show you a place on the map. When I got to looking around this place, one of the very first places that I got to looking was just, right here at the dam, and there is a rock pile that is just a massive hump, and when we get to the Navionics part, I will show you. But when I came back to the Google Earth and saw these boats lined up afterwards, you can actually see the current and the flow here that's coming up over the top of those rocks, creating this turbulence in the water, and before it goes out through those generators. And guys, I'm just telling you, in summertime, this right here is what you're looking for. Now, this is probably like the biggest community hole in the world, obviously, with all these boats right here, because I think that most of the trucks that you're seeing over here in this parking lot are out here right now, but for good reason. And the depths are right even for bass to live on it. So it's not just the stripers or the hybrids. The hybrids is what they got in this lake. So I did do a little research on this. I called a buddy of mine that lives up here. He's a pretty good fisherman in Missouri. I just wanted to kind of get the general 101 so I didn't miss something on this video. And he did say that there were some wipers in here, and that's what they call them out west. I hear them call them out in Kansas and Colorado. I believe it's basically a white bass and a striper, which is most people in parts of the country or other parts of the country call them not wipers, but hybrids. Now there may be a difference between the two, and if there is, drop a comment below and let me know, because I'll be learning something there. But I do believe that they're just hybrids. This lake obviously has a lot of them because there's a lot of pictures online of them. But back to the Google Earth, there are different arms here. We've got this main feeder arm, which is the big arm, is, I've gone blank. Up here all the way up to Osceola is the, why have I gone blank? Like completely. And there won't be a name on here trying to find it on Google at all. How in the world could that be? This is the Osage, I know that. Osage River, pretty sure that's right. Osage River coming out, it's the big one. It's the main arm that comes and feeds. It's the main feeder to this system. And that's important anytime I'm looking at a river system to make sure that I know which one the main system is, because it's the largest, which will also have the largest fish population in it. It may not have the most fish per square mile, but I guarantee it's got the most fish because it's the largest habitat, generally speaking. The other second largest habitat on this is called the Grand River. It is a little bit smaller, but it is still a large reservoir and has a lot of good looking water in it as well. The creek to the north is a Tebow or Tebow. I don't really know how that's pronounced. You guys have to forgive me that live there. It's a good looking arm. And then the Palms area down below, which my buddy Greg told me that he'd had a cabin here on this place, and that is probably the clearest arm on this body of water. It's usually what is the clearest, and given that all things are equal, whether it be no rain or whatever, there's obviously times of the year when other arms might be clear, but given that everything is equal, it is the body of water that generally stays the clearest on this impoundment. So that's good to know as well. All right, so you can kind of see that in this Google Earth imaging, that the Tebow and the Palm area is definitely the clearest, and the Palm looks probably the clearest just in this picture that I've got pulled up right here, because you can see this clear water in here right now. I'm going to break this down and go through different parts of this lake. I'm going to do the lower end, the midsection, and the upper end, but I believe in this very first video, I'm probably just going to try to cover the lower end of this lake, even though I feel like that the midsection of this particular Highland Reservoir is the meat, just by looking at contour depths and things that I've seen on the Navionics chip, which we'll get into. I feel very strongly about the middle sections of this impoundment as far as the fish population and just everything that it has to offer. Really, really good looking water. Like I said, this is a 55,000 acre lake, so it's going to be a little tough to get all this in one show, but we're going to try to get this in here, and let's start with the bottom end of Lake Truman. So let's go ahead and go to the Navionics chip. All right, guys. So we're gonna move to Navionics. Just pull up and I call it an app or a chip, but it's not. It's just online. So we'll just start here with Google. Type in Navionics. There we go, right there, Navionics. Click on it. It's gonna bring you to their home page. You want to click on Chart Viewer. Chart Viewer will pull up and probably pull up in your home area where you live. This one's pulling up in Oklahoma because that's where I am. Yours will probably pull up where you are. Here's Truman Lake. We're going to zoom in, and like I said, we're going to start at the dam because this is going to be the section that we're going to work on the most. Truman actually dumps into Lake of the Ozarks. This is Lake of the O down below, so pretty cool that Lake O is down here below it. Whenever you come in right here on the dam, you're going to see this area that I was talking about that you saw all those boats, but look, this is only 15, 16 foot deep, so this is a huge ridge coming up out of deep water surrounding that entire flow of the water going out through the generators, the turbine of this dam. And so it just creates a wonderful turbulence in the water coming up over the top of this that allows everyone to feed current. We're talking summertime here, so like this is the juice. This is when they really want as much as they can get, especially on a reservoir, impounded reservoir that's not a river system. This is exactly what they're looking for. So any of this stuff through here is plenty shallow enough for largemouth. I know that it's probably got a lot of current. It's probably a lot of hybrids, but they've got to be here somewhere if there's a bass population. They have to live here. They could be even over here on this point over here. I got to thinking earlier, in the springtime, which I'm going to get out of a seasonal deal, but this is such a good looking summer spot that there has to be a population of bass that live here. There's not many places for them to spawn. And if I was here in the spring when everybody's running up the rivers doing all those things, I would not sleep on this cove right here, because it is the one place, these two little pockets, is about all they had to spawn in. So something to think of whenever you're looking at the year-round seasonal patterns of fish and where they live in habitat. That yeah, this is a great summer spot, but they got to have somewhere to go in the spring, and they don't have that much to pick from. What limited spots they do have, you might try. This over here is the main bluff coming. This is the K-Singer Bluff. I believe they have the park and everything set up on this. I read this. There was actually a dam that was built here before the Harry S. Truman Dam, and I believe this impoundment was called K-Singer at the time, which is just named after this bluff and this overlook of the two, where the two rivers come together here. Speaking of two rivers coming together, two things to notice here. One, this part right here is the Osage, and man, I hope this is right. I hope I'm not getting the name of this river wrong. This is the Osage River, and this is the Grand River, and you can see here that it is the largest. You know what? Let's do this. I know I can get this right. I want to show you something anyway. Since we're recording, I think this will show all of it for you guys. We can do this. This is the Osage arm right here, and this is the main arm to it. This is the Grand arm, the Tebow arm, and the Palm arm. So those are basically the four feeder creeks to this system right here. But the thing I want you to notice is that this is the Grand arm, and how much smaller the Grand arm is to the Osage arm. And so the Osage is definitely the main feeder here, if anybody really ever questioned that as far as which one is the big one or the main. As you zoom out and we come up this, I want to show you what I'm really looking for in the summertime. In the summertime for me, we're going to go up the Osage since it is the main one. We're going to use it. The main thing that I'm trying to focus on is I'm trying to focus on the main river channel. It is critical to me every single time that I focus on the main river channel in the summer. If I keep my boat in that main river channel and I make cash from it, whether I'm on a Highland Reservoir, a Midland Reservoir, or a Lowland Reservoir, which becomes very difficult to stay on it, I keep myself in high potential areas, I feel like, in the summer. No questions asked. So it's the easiest to probably follow on a Highland Reservoir. So we're going to follow this around and see. And anytime I get channel swings like this right here, where I get a channel bump and a turn, it makes all this right here, this point productive, this point potentially productive. But what I'm really looking for is areas just like this right here. I want somewhere flat, long and flat, shallow. And when I say shallow, it could be 30 if we're talking about table rock, or 35. But I want it shallow and flat and then drop to vertical, if that makes sense. I want this vertical drop where these contour lines get really tight up against something that's really flat and long and extended horizontally. That's the kind of place that I'm looking for in the summer. This is what I consider the juice. I'm sure that this is probably a community hole just looking at it. I don't know how good the population of the bass is at the bottom end of this lake. I do know there was a couple tournaments there. I read some tournament results the other day, a 2-day tournament that took over 40 pounds to win this summer in June. So 2 20-pound bags, they live here. So I'm imagining that they're probably down at this end of the lake as well. I would not think that this is too deep, even for a lake that has some watercolor. This lake tends to have more watercolor than the other Ozark lakes. I can just tell from looking at the Google Earth pictures and the pictures that I've seen online, this lake does tend to have more watercolor, which in return is going to keep the population of bass, all the fish in this lake, shallower than it might be throughout some of the other Ozark lakes, Lake of the Ozarks and Table Rock and some of those bull shoals down through there that are clearer impoundments than this. But this is definitely something that I'm looking at. Could even come over into here, even though these are a little bit deeper, depending on water clarity and how deep I'm able to catch the fish. This is actually a road bed that ran out here, and then you can see all the house foundations and barn foundations that were scattered along the river channel back before this lake was impounded. I'm sure most of the people, it was just easier to get to the water to have your house built right on the river. So you saw a lot of that. I actually led an event, Bassmaster Open years ago on Lake North Fork for a couple of days, doing the same thing, fishing these really deep house foundations. The North Fork is clear, but same situation. I had the main river bumping the flat contours. Same thing right here. Juice area. The thing that I really like about this area right here is that it also has a very good spawning area, being here and here, that allows you to have a year-round ecosystem for a large population of fish. This is a very attractive area to me. You've got the structure here. You've got road beds coming across from the old highway, and this is the original old highway, I'm sure, that came across this historically, that crossed the Osage River, which would have been quite treacherous, I'm sure, when this bridge was built. Really cool looking area. Also along some of these areas in the summer, some of these big long shallow flats that like to stick out here, I like that stuff. Summer times when I really like things that come out a little further, a little flatter. Water clarity is going to have a lot to do with this. This may be too much depth for this section of the lake. I'm not real sure, but it does kind of get you off the river channel a little bit, which is that's my mainstay. If I keep this river system close to me, I generally feel like I'm in potential of catching the quality of fish that I'm wanting to catch. Here we have a river channel swing with a mouth of 2 pockets. We're going to come on up and stay in the lower third of this lake. This is a really good looking area right here because you're coming in and you're getting a lot of flat water out here in the middle. This is when this lake starts to change and you're starting to see some of this stuff become shallower and more accessible. We're in the middle of the lake, yet it's only 16 feet at the top of this hump. 18 foot, 19 foot at the top of that one. It appears that it's 9 foot at the top of this one. So you've got all these places that this current is going to push through coming down this lake as they're sucking on the generator when they get those fan motors going. And these are all going to be extremely potential fish spots that I'm going to catch fish. This is a really, really good looking area. This is exactly what I'm looking for in the summertime. Is it on the main river? No, some of them are a little bit off the beaten path a little bit. Some of them are right next to it. So depending on what the fish want and where they are and how they're feeding, you get all the options here. Let's talk about baits and techniques that I would use for this Highland Reservoir for this time of year. Truman's got a lot of trees in it, and the trees is something we haven't talked about yet, the standing timber, and I'm actually going to get to in the second episode because you don't want to miss that. I've got a very, I feel like cut through the middle, cut and dry, how to deal with standing timber that can be very overwhelming to a lot of people that aren't used to it and people that even live on these lakes and are used to it, because I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to tell you how to get rid of it in your mind and how to eliminate 95% of those trees just like that. And we'll cover that on the second episode and you guys come back for it. But on this one, the techniques, I was going to say a crankbait, and that's what kind of got me on the timber deal. I would definitely be running a big crankbait. It appears on this lake that I'm not going to be I'm not going to be concerned with my depth of the running. I'm not needing something that runs 20 foot that much. The DD22 is a great crankbait for being in timber. I've used it for my entire life. It's a crankbait that's been around for a long time, and it seems to be the best deep diving crankbait around wood. Hangs up to less for me. Still gets a lot of bites. I would suggest that on a pond like this. The football jig, without a doubt, is probably going to be a #1 go-to. The swing head, a big swing head, a 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce football jig, and a 3/4 ounce swing head. It's going to be a big player here. And Carolina rig could play here as well. And then a big 10-inch worm and a big shaky head. Those are the things that I'm going to have. The shaky head may not have to be so big. The swing head, the biffle head, the swing head, whatever you want to call it, be a big time player on this lake. You've got a lot of flats, a lot of flat places. Hey, we're going to need top water as well. Michael's upset about something and he needs to quit barking. Lay down there, boy. You all right? Come on. You all right? Lay down. Them kids hollering and getting y'all upset. Lay down. So that's pretty much all I've got for you on the first episode. Just covering the bottom end of the lake. I've kind of showed you some things that I'm looking for. I've eliminated a lot of the pockets. I mean, if you really look at this as far as what we're not fishing a lot of this open water out here. I'm not anywhere in any of the pockets, the creeks, the backs of any of that. I'm staying right on the main river. I'm not getting off on big, long, tapering flats. I want channel breaks, sharp bends, current. Those are the places that I'm after. That's what I'm looking for. Those same types of places we're going to carry on up through the upper part of the lake. When we get there, we'll get there. So until next time, guys, I'm out of here. you.